Hey guys, I'm here at the safari at Six Flags Great Adventure in Jackson, New Jersey. I haven't been here in a lot of years. I'm looking forward to a fun time here.
It's actually illegal in New Jersey and control and a $2,000 to $5,000 fine. Yeah. Also, please don't smoke or vape on it. Thank you. All right, with that, we are going to be heading into our safari. The first section we are going into is our Americas. We are going to be seeing animals from both North and South America in this section. Sometimes our animals like to group up together, so that means just sometimes in the beginning we don't always see a whole bunch of animals. That doesn't mean you're going to see less, it just means they're all typically going to be kind of congregated together. So something I would like to mention is we have our barns, so you're going to see those throughout our tour. They are kind of multi-purpose, so there's food in there for our animals to eat. Also, if it's raining out and our animals don't want to get wet, they can hang out in there. And if there's a minor thing our vets have to take care of for one of our animals, they can do that in the barns as well. Alright. So the first animal we are going to be talking about is our rhea. So it looks like there's a couple in the road. So our rheas, they kind of look like ostriches and emus. That is because they're all related. They're all members of this family called rattites. So this is one of our males. I can tell because he has a black ring around his neck. The females will not. When the females lay their eggs, that is where their job ends. The males will then take over, sit on the nest, and raise the young. And this can be quite a large job because they can lay around 20 eggs. So like I said, you can see some of them are in the room. This is their home, not ours, and we are just visitors. So sometimes we have to modify our behavior to how they are acting. So yeah, sometimes we just have to slow down, or if they stay on the road for too long, we just call one of our wardens or our animal care team to handle that. Also, as we pass water, just keep an eye out because there might be some turtles hanging out. So yeah, they're not actually part of our safari, they just come and hang out for the water that we have. Most of the animals in our safari are grazers, so they like to eat plants, including the grass on the ground. But we like to make sure that they have more than enough food. So we have the feeders and also the barns. Alright, the next animal we are going to be seeing is our Roosevelt elk. They're named after Theodore Roosevelt, who is the father of conservation in our national park system. He's also one of our former presidents. So you can see some of them have those very large antlers. Those are our males. Only the males will have the antlers, the females will not. Antlers will actually grow and fall off once a year. So they will regrow starting in the spring. So these are kind of newish. You can also see that they are a little bit fuzzy, so they have this substance called velvet on them. So that just is there as they grow, and then once they're fully grown, it'll fall off. Next up, we have our bison. They're from the American plains. Also, the Roosevelt elk are from the Pacific Northwest United States. But back to our bison. They're from the Great Plains. Back when the railroads were first being built, they were heavily hunted because they were seen as a nuisance to the railroads, but their numbers are doing a whole lot better. You might notice that they have some fur that looks a little shaggy. That is because they're shedding their winter coats. In the winter, they have very thick fur that helps them stay warm. It's actually so thick that when it snows outside, the snow will build up on their back and actually help themselves insulate and stay warm. We do have a couple of baby bison right now, so in the springtime we typically have a lot of babies. So yeah, they're the small orange ones. They're a couple, less than a couple months old. Another thing that they have on top of their heads are those horns. So unlike antlers, if horns break off for whatever reason, they're unable to grow back. So yeah. You might notice that we have barriers around some of our trees. This is for their protection. So our horned and antlered animals like to rub up against them, especially when the elk have the velvet on them. They like to rub it off. So we just have that for them to stay protected. We don't only want to protect our animals, but also the plants. So you can see some more of our rayas now. So you can see some of them are kind of poking around in the ground. Typically they are looking for insects. So they like to eat the bugs off the ground. So here at Six Flags we have over 250 acres of land, and we have 5 miles of roadway. In the area, we have around 70 different types of animals with over 12,000 individuals, which is very cool. The next animal we are going to be able to see is coming up over on our left-hand side. They are fallow deer. They kind of look like the white-tailed deer that you might find in your backyard, but they will keep their white spots their entire lives, unlike the other deer that are found in New Jersey. They were brought over from Europe as a game species for hunting. So in the spring, their spots will get brighter, and in the winter they'll kind of fade a little bit. You might notice there's an all-white one kind of close to the front. She's what we call leucistic. She lacks most of the pigment in her body, but she actually has blue eyes. She lacks all the pigment. She would be albino and have red eyes. You can also see we have a zebra striped truck, so you'll probably see a couple of those driving throughout. These are our wardens, or our animal caretakers. They work very hard to make sure our animals are well taken care of. A big part of their job is actually cleaning up after our animals. So it's not all fun getting play with animals all day. Alright, with that we're going to be going into our next section of the park, which is our African section. Here we're going to see some of our African animals. Both the male and female will have those tusks. Like people, they will actually break down inside tusks they will use more often. And it'll just be a little bit shorter because of the wear. You might notice they have some dirt on them, so this is completely normal for them to see. They will throw dirt over their shoulder to act as a sunscreen and help themselves stay cool. Elephants are known as a keystone species, so they are very important to their environment. They can use their trunks that have over 40,000 muscles in them to knock down trees and create pathways for other animals. Throughout an elephant's lifetime, they will go through 6 sets of teeth. So once they're worn down by the food or grass that they are eating, or plants, they will be pushed forward out of the mouth by the new ones in the back. So that's pretty cool. Fun thing about their trunks as well is they can fully submerge their body and just have that trunk sticking up as a snorkel, which is very interesting. Another animal in there with our elephants is our Canada geese. They're not actually part of our safari, they just come and stay for our free food. So we call them our freeloaders. They're also not actually from Canada. They're named after a man called John Canada. Also, typically, they will migrate, so they will move around in search of food. But once they come here, they typically like to stay because there's a constant source of food. Alright, the next animal we are going to be talking about is our ostrich. They're the second member of the rat-tailed family we are seeing today. You can see the one closest to us with that gray color. She is one of our females, and the blacker one is one of our males. So that is how you tell the difference. Unlike the rhea, both the male and female will take turns sitting on the nest and raising the young. They're the largest bird in the world and one of the fastest running animals on 2 legs. They can reach top speeds up to 43 miles an hour, but this is at a sprint. When they're running more long distance, it's about 35. Now the next animal we can see is our rhinos. They're what we call white rhinos. So you might notice they're not actually white because we mistranslated the original word, so they're supposed to be our wide rhinos. A group of rhinos is called a crash, and our crash is all female. They have those horns on top of their head. They're not actually true horns, so if they break off for whatever reason, and the root is slow patch, it can actually grow back. Both elephants and rhinos are mega herbivores, so they are large plant-eating animals. They're also both potent. The elephants for the ivory on their tusks, and the rhinos for their horns, which are thought to be a medical remedy. Now, the next animal we are going to talk about is our zebras. This is a type of zebra known as grand zebras. Zebras are actually black with white stripes. I always thought it was the opposite until I came here. You can tell because they have black noses and black feet. Also, if you look underneath their fur, you can see that they have black skin. Zebras are a little bit temperamental, so people have never been able to domesticate them like cows and horses. They're also more closely related to donkeys than horses, which is pretty interesting. When they're faced by a predator trying to eat them, they'll actually run around in a circle. This makes it hard for a predator to tell where one zebra ends and the other begins, so it's harder for them to get things off. You can also see there's some turtles hanging out in the middle of the water. The next animal we have is our Asian water buffalo. You might be wondering, why is there an Asian animal in Africa? And this is because this section park has the most water. There are also some more turtles hanging out. So like their name suggests, they are heavily reliant on water. They have a special joint above their hoof called a fetlock that helps them navigate the muddy environment without getting stuck like you and I would. It's a pretty cool animal. We also have some more of our zebras. Our hoof stock for animals that have hooves. Alright, so you might notice that we have been going in between some of the gates. So we like to keep our sections kind of separate for a couple different reasons. So when our animals are in smaller areas, I know they're not small, but smaller than the entire park, it's easier to keep track of our individuals and make sure everyone is okay. Also, due to their nature, some of our animals wouldn't necessarily be great fits being put together. So that is why we do that. Alright. If you look kind of over by the barrier, you can see some of our ostrich eggs. Ostrich eggs are quite large. They can be around 3 pounds, which is equivalent to 24 chicken eggs. Fun fact about them is a person can stand on those eggs without them breaking typically. In front of them we have more of our fallow deer. So these are some of our male fallow deer. You can tell it's because they have antlers. There's also a baby kind of up front. They have what we call palmate antlers because their antlers kind of resemble a palm. We also have some of our black bucks, so they're the smaller animal. One of them is darker. So they're called black bucks because the bucks or males are typically a darker blackish color. Next animal we have over on our left is our ellipsis waterbuck. They're named for that circular shape on their bottom. They produce this oily substance that smells really bad, so it stops other animals from eating them. To them it smells good, so it helps them find a mate and helps them stay waterproof. Another animal we have is the one that's kind of close to the truck. These are white-bearded gnu. They take part in something known as a great migration where they travel in large numbers across Africa. It's actually so large you can see them from outer space. Those animals with those horns are called our Bezel oryx. They're from a very warm environment, so they can actually raise their body temperatures up to 116 degrees. They can also go 2 weeks without water for a couple different reasons. So a lot of the water they do get, they get from the plants that they eat. Also, they have specialized livers and can recycle the water within their body, which is very, very cool. We have some more of our female ostriches. So our ostriches are one of the only animals that is able to kind of go in between some of our sections. So they can go in between Africa and wildland. We are also going to be able to see our male peacock coming up on the left. So you can tell he's a male because he has a blue head and a train of feathers. Those feathers actually come out of his back, not his tail. Also, the feathers will be molted, so they'll come off and just fall off, and they will regrow. We We also have another animal over on the right, which is our African bongo. They're kind of harder to see over by the barrier behind the feeders. They are also known as the ghosts of the forest because they're very hard to find out in the wild. When we do find them, they're in areas that have large amounts of salt. So yeah. We also don't know a whole lot about them. Most of what we have learned from having them under care. So if you look off to the left, you can see one of our baby ostriches. They kind of look like little geese, but I promise you they are an ostrich. So they were hatched from the eggs that you saw, which is very cool. Of our giraffes. A group of giraffes is called a tower, and this is only part of our tower. Our giraffes can kind of be all in this next area, so sometimes they like to be a little bit spread out, but that's okay. We have a couple of baby giraffes, so when they're born, they have to drop 6 feet from their mother, but don't worry, every giraffe will go through that, and they're just fine. Giraffes, the males get around 18 feet tall, and the females are around 16. So those are a couple of our babies, so they're quite small. When they're born, they're around 6 feet. Giraffes are going through something known as a silent extinction, so not a whole lot of people know that this is an endangered animal, and that is due to habitat loss and human conflict. So yeah, that's why we call it silent. They are quite a lovely animal, very charismatic. They also, you can see, have purple tongues, purple or blackish tongues, which is pretty interesting. We can see coming up on our right is our Ankoli cattle. They're an African type of cattle. Both the male and female will have those horns that actually have blood vessels in them to help themselves stay cool. You can see we have a couple of babies. So when they're born, they're not born with these huge horns. They actually grow once they're out of their mother. They're also a symbol of wealth, so the more cattle you have, the wealthier you are. You can see more of our giraffes hanging out, so they're quite a lovely animal. In front of them, though, we have our scimitar horned oryx. They are a great source of conservation. Back in the year 2000, they went extinct in the wild due to having some under human care. People were able to bring them back in the year 2016 in Chad. Also, if you look at them from the right angle, it only looks like they have one horn. So this is actually where the myth of the unicorn came from. Also, if their horn breaks off for whatever reason, they will only have one horn. So yeah. Coming up, we're going to be able to see our Savannah Sunset Resort, which is our hotel that we have in our park. So you can stay in the middle of this park, which is very cool. It is a minimum 2-night stay. We stay in our park and get tickets to the amusement park, the safari, and water park. At night there are campfires. You can kind of see the campfires in the area. And in the morning there are giraffe feedings at this platform. So they feed them sweet potatoes and sugar cones. And they absolutely love it. So it's a very cool thing. The next area we are headed into is our Serengeti Grassland. So the first animal we are going to be seeing in here is our sable antelope. They're one of the larger types of antelopes, and are actually the fiercest antelope in the world. They are known not to back down from the fight and take on a full-grown lion and throw it over their shoulder using those horns. You can see we have a couple of younger ones, so when they're first born they're a lighter color, and then as they age they will get darker. The one kind of in the middle is our youngest and was born in the last month. So very cute. Like I said before, springtime means there are going to be a lot of babies. That's just typically when most animals give birth. Alright, the next animal we can see is our addax. They're the whitish animal over on most endangered animal in our park. There are only about 90 left. They're from the desert, so they actually have flat feet, which are very good for walking on the sand. In the winter, their fur will get darker to help them absorb more heat and stay warmer. In the summer, it will get lighter to help them reflect that heat and stay cooler. So yeah, a couple of those. We also have an animal that kind of looks like one we already saw. These are our white-tailed gnu. They kind of resemble the white-bearded gnu we saw earlier. They're just a little bit smaller, so they do not take part in the Great Migration that I talked about earlier on. They kind of more just follow around wherever they can get food, so we call them nomads. You can also see a couple of groundhogs, so like our geese and turtles, they're not a part of our safari, they just come and hang out with us. We also have some more of our black bucks over on the right. So all the black bucks we've seen so far are males because they're the ones that have the horns. We also have another one of our white-tailed gnu crossing the street. Like I said before, they can kind of do whatever they want. So they can cross the street, and we just have to modify our behavior to whatever they're doing. We have a couple ostriches in this area as well. So a couple areas that have ostriches. We also have some more of our black bucks. One that is actually a little bit darker, like the blackish color I was talking about. The next animal I'm going to talk about is our udads. So they kind of look like mountain goats, that is because they're related. They're also called Barbary sheep. They're native to the Atlas Mountains. You might have noticed there are a lot of holes throughout this habitat, or this section, and that is thanks to our udads. They like to use their horns to create holes in the day. They can also scratch itches with those horns and help when they are fighting each other. So this is our bachelor herd of udads, so they are all male. You can tell the difference between the male and female because the males are getting larger, have more chest hair, and thicker horns. See some more udads over there. Hello. Looks like there's an ostrich in the road. Yep. They really like to demonstrate that they can do whatever they want. So the next area we're going into is Kingsland. This is home to our lions. Now, lions are the only large social cats, so they form social groups called prides. In these prides, the males are going to be the protectors, and the females are going to be the hunters. Even when lions are not in the prides, and the males have to hunt for themselves, they're not very good at it. One of the reasons for that is they have a smaller heart compared to their body size, so they are unable to actually chase after their prey. They kind of have to work as a group to circle it, or hope that that prey is injured. It is pretty easy to tell the males from the females. The males are going to be the ones with those manes around their neck to help protect that neck and throat area when they have to fight each other. So yeah, you might notice a lot of our lions are sleeping right now. This is completely normal. So most of the time when I drive through here, they are sleeping. So the females sleep anywhere from 16 to 18 hours a day, and the males sleep anywhere from 8 to 21 hours a day. Again, because they're not good at hunting, this is one of the ways that they can conserve their energy. Another thing that they do is they are known to eat large amounts of food all at once, so they don't get hungry. Here at Six Flags, we have 3 prides. We have the one on the right and 2 on the left. They will actually use this walkway to move across the street and rotate which habitat they're in, which is pretty interesting. The reason why we have 3 prides is they just have different social structures, each with their own alpha male. The lion's roar is actually quite loud. It can be heard up to 5 miles away. So if you stay at a resort, you actually don't need a alarm clock because typically our lions start to roar at 5 in the morning. So yeah. In the last 40 years, lion populations have decreased around 40%. So one of the reasons for that is lions like to eat farmers' livestock or animals, and farmers don't like that, so they will hunt them for it. Also, trophy hunting is a really big thing for lions because they're this really cool animal, but it's not really cool, in my opinion, it's not really like that. So, yeah. We have some more of our animals. Alright, the next section we are headed into is our Black Bear Ridge. Here we're going to find our black bears. Black bears can be found in every single state in the United States except one. The one state where they are not found is Hawaii. I always like to joke you can't swim that far, but that's just a joke. They're just not found there. Unlike their name suggests, black bears can actually come in a couple different colors. So they can be black, obviously. They can be brown, blonde, and even white. There's a extraordinary white black bear that they thought was a polar bear, so they brought it to the Arctic. When that bear didn't do too well, they realized their mistake and brought him home. Typically, bears will hibernate. This is when they go to sleep in the winter because they're limited resources. They'll go to sleep for a couple months. Our bears do not hibernate because we give them resources every single day, so there's no need for them to hibernate. Coming up on the lake, we actually have a mother who has 2 cubs right now. If you look, she might be blocking them, but they're about the size of teddy bears, so they're very, very so yeah. Also, during hibernation, the mothers will actually give birth, so they'll wake up, give birth, and then go right back to sleep. To get fed, the cubs will do this purring noise that stimulates milk production in the mother. And they can feed their cubs while they are sleeping. Black bears are quite good at climbing. They actually have curved paws, which help them kind of climb things better. There was one earlier on that was hanging out in the tree. You can also see there's some water over on the left that looks very green. Don't worry. It is not algae growing in the water. It's a plant called duckweed that we actually put there on purpose because it is a very good snack for our bears if they get hungry while they go for a swim. So like I mentioned, our bears don't hibernate, but that doesn't mean they don't sleep. So sometimes we will see bears kind of sleeping, like that one is up there. But they don't sleep for long periods of time, so it's not hibernation. Alright, the next area we are going to is what we call our lower 40. So this is a continuation of the wild plains area that we were in before. The first animal we're going to talk about is the animal back there. That's a little reddish. These are our red lechwe. You might notice they actually have longer back legs and front legs. This helps them not get stuck because they're from a muddy environment. So yeah. We also have our common eland. When they are pregnant, they will actually jump 8 feet up in the air, which is pretty impressive. Keeping an eye out for some turtles hanging out in the water. I have seen some today. We also have some more of our fallow deer over on the left. So, we saw some of those earlier. Yeah, there's a couple turtles hanging out on the wood over there. As we can see our Savannah Sunset Resort again, which is a very cool opportunity. The next section we are going to be going into is our European brown bear area. So brown bears are larger and more aggressive than the black bears we saw earlier. They're larger than the black bears, but smaller than grizzly bears. So, yeah. Also, typically you will not find them in the same location because they're from 2 different continents. I always think that's funny to say. Do not like to climb trees. The only time you will typically see one climb a tree is if it feels threatened. A mother will chase her cubs up into a tree for protection. You can see the bear off to our left. That is one of our younger bears, so he's a little bit taller. We'll see some larger ones later on in our tour. Coming up, we have 2 bears in this section. It's actually a mother and a cub. I used to not be able to tell them apart because they're about the same size until I learned that the cub was the later one. Brown bears also have flat paws, which are very good for digging. They can kind of use it as a shovel. They also have longer noses to help them poke around in the holes that they dug. They don't only poke or dig holes for food, but they can also dig holes to kind of hang out in. And yeah. Both of our bears, brown and black, are known as opportunistic omnivores. So they will kind of eat anything they can get their paws on. However, they do have their food preferences. Our black bears prefer more fruits and veggies, and our brown bears prefer a more protein-rich diet. So we like to make sure that we feed the bears what they want. One of the ways we make sure our brown bears get protein is there's this powdery substance close to the truck. It kind of resembles sand. It is not sand. It's actually their food. So it is a protein powder that we give them that they absolutely love. A lot of times you can see them kind of eating it. We don't also just feed them that. We feed them a couple other things because because they are omnivores. Coming up, you can see we have a couple bears hanging out in the water. So our water is especially nice when it's hot and our bears want to cool off. So yeah. See the one that's raising its paw, you can really see that flat paw quite well. There are also enrichment items or large toys that our bears can play with in there as well. So brown bears are only ever going to come in different shades of brown. They can be light brown, medium brown, or dark brown, but they're always going to be brown unless they're albino. See, one of the bears is actually eating their food. So yeah, they love it. So you can see there are two bears hanging out back there. That is actually a mother and a cub. So the cub's around 1.5 years. The last couple of months I've been here, he has grown quite a bit, which is very cool to see. So he loves to run around, play with his mother, and it's very fun. The last bear that we are going to be seeing looks like he's taking a nap. He's such a sweetie. He's actually my favorite animal in the entire park. And I do make sure to let every one of my tours know that, so I think it's fun. So sometimes he likes to play with his toys, and also he likes to play with sticks. Sometimes he'll wave at the truck. I'm not sure why he does that, but he was never taught to do it, but he does do it. Also, I'm seeing jump on the computer. Alright, with that we are going to be going into our conservation area. In this section of the park, we actually don't really do anything. So the only time we'll do something is if a tree falls over in the middle of the road, we won't move it out of the way, so we can continue driving. So this is dedicated for our native New Jersey wildlife, so anything you might find in your backyard can come in here and hang out with us and leave whatever they want. So in the past we have seen white-tailed deer, foxes, skunks, rabbits, snakes, turtles, hawks, geese, and so many others. Like I said, because they can come and go as they please, we don't always see a whole bunch of animals in this section of the park, which is fine. It also does get a little bit colder. I know we are going a little bit faster, but that is due to our aquatic plant life that acts as nature's air conditioning. So when it's really, really hot out, this is one of the best places in our safari to be. Alright, the next section that we are going into is our didgeridoo path. A didgeridoo is an Australian instrument, so this is our Australia section of the park. So we have two Australian animals in this section. We have the red kangaroo.
Thank you, thank you.
So first up, we're going to be talking about our red kangaroos. They're what we call the world's largest marsupial. A marsupial is an animal that keeps their baby in a pouch. So when the baby kangaroos are born, they're about the size of lima bean, and they will crawl into the pouch where they will continue to grow until they're large enough to exit. For a little bit, they can go in and out as they please until they completely outgrow it and they have to leave. So a female is called a Joe, a male is called a Jack, and the babies are called Joeys. You can tell the difference between a male and a female because the males are typically larger. Also, they're going to be that reddish color, and the females will be a duller color to help them blend in. I don't know if I said that or not, so sorry if I repeat that. They have a fused back hip bone, so they are actually unable to move their back two legs independently. They have to hop, but don't worry, they're quite good at hopping. They can hop up to 20 feet forward and 10 feet up in the air. Also, mothers can produce two types of milk, one for a baby that's in the pouch and one for a baby that's out of the pouch. So they can have two babies at once, one in and one out of the pouch. Also, they can pause their pregnancy for up to 11 months if conditions are not very good. So if there's a drought, so we can pause it. Alright, the other animal we have in here is our emu. They're the last member of the rat-type family we're going to be seeing today. They're also the only birds to have calf muscles. They have what we call vestigial wings, so their wings do not work as their purpose, but they do have a little claw again, which is pretty interesting. Also, if you guys are fans of Jurassic Park, they were actually modeled for the Velociraptor in that movie series, which is pretty cool. Right, so we have some more of our kangaroos over on our left. Sometimes you'll see legs or like the mothers have a big stomach. It's not that they have a big stomach, it's just their babies or joeys. So that's always fun to see. Alright, with that we're going to be going into our next section, which is our tiger section. That is tigers in Guyana. So at one point in time there were 9 different types of tigers in the world. However, 3 of those have gone extinct and are no longer found. And the tigers that are still around are endangered, so there aren't a whole lot of them left in the world. Alright, the first tiger type we're going to be seeing today is our Bengal tiger. Bengal tigers are native to India. And they can actually come in a couple different colors. So our girl is a golden tabby, so she's a golden brownish color. They can also come in that classic orange and black. They can come in white with black stripes and white with off-white stripes. The next type of tiger we are going to be seeing today is actually the largest cat in the world. This is because they're from a colder environment where being larger and having more fur helps them stay warmer. And these are our Siberian tigers. Now, typically out in the wild, all tigers, not just Siberian, want to be alone, so they like to be solitary. However, we are going to have 5 of them that are all together. So the reason we are able to do this is because they're all siblings, so they all kind of get along. They were all actually born at the same time to the same mother, so they're the twin version of 5. When they were born, they increased the Siberian tiger population by 1%. Which means there are only about 500 Siberian tigers in the world. However, that number has decreased in the last 2 years they've been alive, so they're only now around 300, which is very sad. Now, on the other side of the truck, you might notice the mother and the father of the 2 older sisters. The mother is kind of hanging out in that building, so she can use that as part of her habitat. So we also have the father, and there are 3 older sisters. 2 of the older sisters have formed what we call a bonded pair. So this can happen out in the wild as well. So basically they decide, I don't want to be alone, I want a best friend. So they'll bond together, live their lives in the same habitat or territory. And they will hunt together as well. So I think it's very cute. They're like our resident besties. You might notice there's some of those white dots on their ears called false eyes. It looks like a second set of eyes to other animals, so even if they're not looking, it still looks like they are. Tigers are what we call a triple threat animal, so they can run, they can climb, and they can swim. They actually have web paws, help them kind of use their hand or paw as a paddle. So that's pretty cool. So yeah, you can see this is the second of our bonded pair. So the other one was kind of taking a nap, and she's up. So tigers are not quite as loud as lions. Their roar can be heard up to 3 miles away, but that is still a pretty loud animal. So even though Siberian tigers are from an area that snows, you will only ever see Siberian tigers in that classic orange and black. See one that is not, it's simply another. Now, back in the day, we used to be able to drive these cars, used to be able to drive them with the car. And in the 70s, our cats with lions and tigers used to be free roaming, so they used to come up right up next to the cars. To make sure everything was safe, we would have our wardens hang out in this warden watchtower. So it's a cool part of Six Flags this year, I like to mention. We don't really use it anymore, but like I said, I think it's pretty cool. Kind of wish I got to experience that. You can also see we have one of our llamas over there. Alright. In this next area, we are actually going to see the prey of the Bengal tiger. These are our nilgai. So Bengal tigers like to eat them because there are less Bengal tigers. They are doing quite well. They're actually sort of becoming a nuisance animal because there are so many of them. And population control is actually very hard because they are seen as a religious symbol. One of my favorite parts about them though is that they have their striped ankles, which I always like to say, it looks like to me they're wearing socks with sandals, so I always think that's pretty funny. Next, we can see more of our udads. So this is our mixed herd. So we have the younger males and our females. So if we're telling them apart, the males are larger, have thicker horns, and more chest hair. You can see one of them is on the rock, so they are quite good at climbing because they are native to the Atlas Mountains. So we also have another one of our black bucks over there. This is one of our males. You can tell because he has those horns. Females will not have the horns. You can also see 2 of the roller coasters that are in our amusement park. So the green one is Medusa and the wooden one is El Toro. So it's pretty cool. So sometimes we don't always see a whole lot of animals in this section because the animals in this section are actually able to go into our last section. So sometimes we'll just see more of them hanging out. The last section of the park we're going into today is our Baboon village. So it's named for our baboons. So yeah, we have some more of our black bucks, like I said, to tell them apart. The males are going to be the ones that have the horns, and the females are not. Also, sometimes the males will be that darker blackish color. can also see some more of our Neil guy friends hanging out as well. Alright, so now, yeah. So before we talk about our baboons, we're going to talk about another animal, because they're kind of going to be hanging out in front of our baboons. They are yak. Yak are known as beasts of burden. They are very strong and can be used for farm labor. They can also be used for their milk, their meat, and their fur. So they're kind of coming up. There are only about 10,000 left in the wild, but don't worry, they're about 14 million under care, so they're doing all right. All right, now on to our baboons. So back in the day, they used to be a free-running animal like our tigers and lions. They used to cause a lot of problems for the cars, so they like to take car antennas and windshield wipers, and at the end of the day, our wardens would have to collect everything, and people go find their stuff. Now, baboons are a special animal. They form groups called troops. To show respect to each other, they will pick the bugs off, and it's actually done in a specific order. So it'll start with the alpha male and then go down based on rank. Like our bears, they're opportunistic omnivores, so they eat kind of anything they can get their little hands on. They also have 3-inch long teeth, so this is definitely not an animal you want to make mad and have bite you. And if you get up close to them, do not look them in the eye, because that is a sign of aggression. Baboons have a tail that kind of bends at 90 degrees. Unlike other monkeys, they're actually unable to swing from trees. So the only purpose for that tail is to actually counterbalance. You can also notice that there's a building in there. Like our tigers, they're actually able to go inside that building, especially when it's colder or raining out, so they can use it to stay dry. We also have that red piece of roller coaster that used to be in our amusement park called the American Scream Machine. We now call it our American Baboon Machine. So it's pretty easy to tell the males from females. I don't know if I said that, but I'll just repeat if I did. The males are larger, and the females are the ones that have the red bottoms. So you can see this is also part of our baboon habitat. So they can kind of swing on those tire swings if they want. They can also use that kind of platform made out of fire hoses. And there's a teepee that used to be in the park as well, that you can climb on as well. We also have some more of our black bucks hanging out over there. Pretty cool. Alright, with that, we're going to be coming to the end of our safari. So that's it. Please stay seated with your seatbelts on until we are back at the station. I tell you guys you can undo them. Please don't do it before I tell you you can. There is one last thing I want to mention, which is our Save an Icon pin. It's a little pin you can buy in our park that costs $5. All the money made from that goes towards helping animals through the Wildlife Conservation Network. You can see what our pin looks like. I have one on my hat. You can also see a larger version of what the pin will look like coming up on the right. So this year we have the Aldabra tortoise and the red-eyed tree frog. So they're pretty cool animals. We also have animals from previous years, or pins from previous years, other animals on them that you can also buy as well. So here's a souvenir I highly recommend getting in our gift shop.